Hi everybody, Shaz here from Customer Journeys AI, and I know that many of you are using um, AI chatbots, for example, to do your customer support within your business. What I've actually built here is an agentic AI booking system for a plumbing firm that I'm currently working with, and it works across a multitude of different tools. And I just wanted to kind of take you through how I built this and how it works. Before I show you the actual logic, I wanted to just explain to you the pain points that were occurring within this firm. And to be honest, they're very simple. The first thing is they were missing a lot of calls during their jobs. So you've got engineers on site, they're not answering, and this is a big issue within the trades industries. And as a result, business, they're missing business, and that person who called no longer calls back. There's also a stat where 40% of bookings actually come in after 5 p.m. or through the weekend. So if there is a window after 5 p.m. for bookings and you're basically not available to take those calls, you're with family, for example, then that's costing you real jobs, real time. The one thing I think that's definitely universal is the um, the issue with the manual follow-up. And what I mean by this is the plumbing company would send a quote and the customer takes a look, thinks about it, doesn't get back. So there's no kind of follow-up after the quote's been sent. And the final one here is this double booking issue. So the firm actually has multiple engineers and they're sharing one specific calendar, and as a result that's going to cause double bookings within specific time slots, which is obviously a major issue. This is the architecture, and I won't rush this slide because there is a lot behind it, but it has 5 layers and each of the layers has one job. The customer basically can talk to the system, and they can talk from whichever channel they're in, whether that's from SMS, WhatsApp, whether that's on a website, or whether they are calling in to the voice agent itself, or whether the voice agent's actually called them back after they've missed a call. So I'm using Twilio, which handles everything coming in, and then I'm using ElevenLabs with Claude to handle the AI intelligence layer. We then have a orchestration, booking logic layer, and then Superbase Postgres database that we use holds the source of truth. So we made a strategic decision very early, and I think it's the right call for this type of agentic system, that the external tools, they're basically the integration layers. They're not the source of truth. Postgres Superbase is the source of truth. So what that means is if ElevenLabs, for example, goes down, the booking data is still there. And that booking state is important. It needs to stay intact so that if any of these API connections go down, we have all the booking data. This also then rules out or eliminates a lot of the hallucinations. So, for example, the AI agent can't just confirm a booking if there's no um, confirmed state from the backend database. So many people who are building an AI booking system, what they're doing is they're letting the LLM handle the actual booking logic, and I think this is obviously a mistake. LLM is obviously great at one thing, and that's the conversational parts, so handling that conversation and understanding the context of the customer. For example, my boiler is making a noise, it's just not, it's not working. It kind of understands that context. But if you think about the more deterministic layer, which is like availability, locking in a booking, confirming a booking. That's all deterministic. And if you let the LLM then infer whether a slot's available, for example, it will definitely hallucinate. And I've tested this many, many times, and it's definitely the case. So I would just caution around this. So the way that I've built this is the LLM layer handling the conversational layer, then the deterministic layer, which handles the booking. Um, and it's four phases essentially. So you've got the capture, which is where the agent is basically gathering the intent. You know, I have an emergency with my boiler, for example. It's broken down, right? It's gathering identity, it's gathering details of the specific booking. At this point, it hasn't touched the calendar booking system. Then we're qualifying, so we're actually checking the availability. The agent then is then presenting options. It's confirming um, the contact details. There's still no commitment at this stage. And then is the lock stage, and this is where it obviously gets real. We're creating a hold. This is actual real deterministic lock-in, and I'm using Chronify to do this to find the slots within the calendar, and then it gets physically reserved. And obviously, if the process fails, it can expire the reservation as well. Um, and then the final piece is just terminal. So you basically know that a good state is a confirmed state essentially. So there's lots of fallback for any issues and edge cases, which I could talk about to you more separately if you're interested, but these are the kind of ones that I've identified through for a lot of testing. So the way that I built this really from the off is cross-channel state context. Um, and that I think is what separates what I've done in this system versus, you know, a bunch of connected webhooks on NA10, for example. There's three key entry points: voice, SMS, web, chat, and they all feed the same state machine. So that's kind of the bit that I'm just talking, alluding to. So you've got voice. So that just means if a call comes in or if the agent calls itself outbound, Twilio then routes this through ElevenLabs, and then ElevenLabs is actually handling the speech to text, text to speech piece. The voice agent is then basically communicating with the back end and is doing that through an API route, and it's looking at the availability options. So the critical piece is obviously the agent isn't reading the calendar directly, but it's asking the back end, and then the back end is relaying the information to the agent, and when the agent talks, then you've got the SMS. So if a customer texts in, and this I think is the powerful bit, if, for example, a customer starts on voice, they can also switch to SMS because everything's persisted. And then the conversation can basically pick up exactly where they left off. So there's no re-asking for customer details. Then we have web, and it's the same principle here. So basically, start a web session that initiates, and it can also resume from a previous booking state. And then obviously, if someone fills in the form, they can complete confirmation there, or if they half fill in the form, then they can continue the conversation with the voice agent or the SMS. So it's pure omnichannel orchestration here. I've created a fairly sophisticated booking flow, and this is just to ensure that availability is checked and confirmed. And there's basically 5 steps that happen. So the first thing is the actual check itself. So I'm using Quantify. Um, it will query any open slots real time, and it doesn't matter if, for example, an engineer is on Google Calendar or Outlook or any other calendar. We can basically abstract the calendar layer through Quantify. The next bit is the presenting of the availability. So we will present to the customer 2 or 3 time slots that are available, and obviously anything that's blocked out in the calendar won't be presented. Once the customer picks a time, for example, if it's 2 p.m., we're calling Chronify, and that's the deterministic layer, and that will then go ahead and lock in that slot, but it will be on hold for now until the confirmation happens. We're then pulling that booking record into Superbase, our database. And the final piece is the confirmation where the agent is actually speaking to the customer and confirming the booking. Great, you're booked in for 2 p.m. on Thursday, and then everything's confirmed in the system. So this is the production stack if you're interested. As you can see here, these are 8 of the components that I'm using. Twilio, essentially, because this is going to be multi-tenancy, i.e. I'm going to be able to use this across multiple tenants. We would have one Twilio DID for each client. So that would be basically their own dedicated number, and so on and so forth. ElevenLabs, which is the production voice path that I'm using. This is for obviously the speech to text and text to speech, input output. Chronify is the calendar abstraction, which basically means we're not plugging directly into Google, for example. I've noted when I've plugged directly into the API, we've had some issues with the um, integration. So Chronify seemed to work really well and handle all of the calendar operations really well. Superbase is our Postgres database, has really high level of security. I'm able to then tenant scope this for multiple clients, which is brilliant. And then on the right hand side, you can just read through those if you're interested. Obviously, we just want to make sure that the booking API just has that one job and isn't slowed down by other jobs that are occurring, notification sending, whether the CRM syncing, whether the calendar's performing some kind of health check, that kind of thing. So you can see here the different jobs. So with booking notifications, if the email fails to send, then obviously the booking can still be confirmed. We have integration sync, and that's async safe, which just means that the CRM itself is reconciled after the booking's persisted. Um, we've got calendar connection health, which is a periodic check to make sure that calendar's still working correctly. Booking expiry. So, for example, we're not we want to make sure that any hold that didn't actually convert to a confirmation within a specific period of time, that then becomes automatically released and doesn't become like a stale um, um, calendar lock-in. Um, and that again, goes back to what we discussed earlier around ensuring that there's no issues with double bookings as well. And then the final one here is the compliance and audit piece. So if we have any failed jobs, then they're sent to a specific queue rather than completely disappearing. Um, all of this, and it is a bit technical, um, is a little bit unglamorous, you could say, but it's kind of how all of the real world data within this system is working. So if a customer, and I've put the example here, is saying water leaking out of the boiler, that gets classified into an urgent classification. It's then given the correct service category. Um, the phone numbers, sometimes they come in different formats. That needs to be normalized. Post codes are sometimes not correctly given, so that needs to be normalized. And then we have our Superbase database, which is always the source of truth and always has clean data. So what did actually change? So I'm going to talk you through a few things that did change as a result of this um, system. So before, obviously, missed calls would just disappear right into a voicemail or never to be heard from again. But now, if there's a missed call, we will send an SMS response within less than 60 seconds. And we also have a system to send for a voice agent to call back within less than 60 seconds. Before there was no out of hours coverage. Now the agentic system can pick up jobs at any time of the day, 24/7. Quotes are sent once, and before they weren't followed up. Now we will send an automated message every few days in a follow-up sequence. Um, we obviously have less issues in terms of double booking risks, and we have a really efficient calendar booking system. Before, a lot of the manual booking was done over the phone, on WhatsApp, in various forms. Now, obviously, with the agentic system, once the confirmation occurs, whichever channel it is, it's stored within the Superbase database. And the final thing is no review generation system before. Now we can send a reminder post job to review the actual job itself. So just to finish, what have I actually learned from building this? Well, the first thing is after doing this, and it took me um, several weeks to build this system, I realized that the AI isn't the system itself. It's actually the LLM with a state machine. So there's that deterministic layer that's so important. External tools can actually break. I was trying originally with like direct connections to specific calendar APIs. I then replaced that with Quantify, which operationally is brilliant. A lot of SMBs don't actually need a CRM. What they're trying to do is just close the gap between all of their existing tools, and that's what this system did. And the final thing is, before I did any of this work, I did an audit. So I was actually mapping out their complete customer life cycle, their customer journey, and where their revenue was leaking, where the friction points were. Then I created the architecture for this. So if you're interested in speaking to me and I can help you, give you some advice on how I handled this, just get in touch via DM. You can message me, or you can go to customerjourneys.ai and send me a message. Thank you.